Hey guys, just 1 minute.
Rotate your phone. What?
You can rotate it. Okay, we're going live on YouTube and Facebook, so just give us, you want to just keep it.
Do I have to go? Okay. Hold on.
We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty, but if you're tuning in over on YouTube, it looks like we can see you. Go ahead and drop me a comment if you can see this live video. Facebook, we're trying to get you guys live. It didn't want to go
doesn't want to go
horizontal, so we're switching to vertical.
And your little holder thing.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, your little thing is gonna be in the way.
Just a minute, we're almost there.
There we go. No.
Oh, sorry, it's so big.
It's that guy.
Yeah, here, let me pull.
Hold on.
Sorry, Facebook. There we go. Sorry. Go. Okay, YouTube people. Thanks so much for joining in. Okay, I want to see some comments. What have you guys been making this week? I have a brand new tutorial that I'm so excited to share with you. I think you're gonna love it because you guys have been requesting this. Facebook, can you guys see us now? Is it working? I'm waiting to see some comments pop up to see if it's working for you guys. It looks like YouTube's live. Okay, so today, can we straighten this one just a little bit?
Yeah.
Sorry guys, we had some issues with trying to go
like,
a little down this way.
Down that way.
That's great.
There, okay.
So today we are making a brand new tutorial that I just posted about 5 minutes ago. So you are seeing this first. We are making ear savers. This is something that you guys have requested nonstop for the past month. So I finally put together a tutorial for you. What is an ear saver? If you're not familiar, I've had a lot of requests from healthcare providers asking for something to help their ears when they're wearing an elastic mask. So when you wear an elastic mask, there's a few reasons why it might cause some irritation behind the back of your ear. First off, you might have a latex allergy, and a lot of elastic is made with latex. So that can cause an issue. Another issue is just having something tightly around the back of your ear can also cause some rubbing and some friction if you're wearing it for a full shift. So 3 different ways to make something to take the pressure off of your ears. So the first one, this is a button one. Really, really super simple. Anyone could sew this. Goes like this, goes around the back of your neck, and it hooks like this. So that one's really easy. That's the first one we're going to start out with. The next one is a headband. I'm gonna try not to mess up my hair. Kind of impossible. This one goes like this. You just slide it on like a headband, and your mask goes like this, hooks onto one side, hooks onto the other side, and you don't have to put it around your ears. If your mask is kind of loose, you can wrap your elastic around the button a few different times, and that's super helpful so you can get a tighter fit. The last one is just adding on buttons to a scrub cap. So this is really easy. You can take an existing scrub cap if you already have one. You can also make a scrub cap using my free pattern. This is what it looks like. Don't mind the big ponytail, but the idea of it is it's just going to hook like this. So 3 different ways, because I know everyone has a preference on what they wear when they're working, but so many requests for this tutorial. I'm excited to share it with you guys tonight. So let me know in the comments if you have been sewing face masks. I want to know, what is your face mask count? How many have you made so far? I was adding up our tally across all of our groups, Sweet Red Poppy, Facebook, Instagram, and we have made just under 50,000 masks as a community. So I am over the moon excited about that. We've been able to donate so many of those masks to hospitals in need, and this is yet another way that we can donate and help out those needs. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to know, where are you guys tuning in from? What have you been making this week? Go ahead and tell me all about it in the comments. To start out with this ear saver, so this is probably the most simple one to make. We're going to start out with a 5-inch by 4-inch piece of cotton fabric. You're going to fold it in half. And when we're doing this, we are always folding right sides together. So the pretty sides should be on the inside, and I'm just going to put 2 pins in there just to keep it together while I sew it. And what we're going to be doing is sewing, let's see, along this edge, and this edge. This one over here that's folded doesn't need to be sewn, but we do need to leave about a 1-inch opening along the middle, and that's how we're going to turn it right side out. So we're using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. This is the seam allowance I always use when I'm sewing, mainly because it's the easiest for beginners. It usually is lining up right with the edge of your presser foot, so it makes it easy to keep it straight the entire time. It also gives you a little bit more leniency if you happen to curve a little bit or you aren't keeping a straight line, then you're not going to ruin it with that larger seam allowance. So don't forget to back stitch when you're beginning. Once you reach about 3/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric, you're going to put your needle in the down position. Raise your presser foot and pivot. Then you're going to keep sewing. And about halfway through, I'm going to stop and back stitch. This is where I'm leaving my opening. So about 1 inch. You can do a larger opening if you'd like. Back stitch again when you're starting. The reason that we back stitch at the beginning and the ending of that little opening is you place quite a bit of stress on that seam as you're opening it up. So you really want to make sure it's secure. Otherwise it will just pull right apart. Again, when you get 3/8 of an inch from the seam or from the edge of the fabric, just pivot. And this pivoting technique is also going to give you nice sharp corners. Back stitching at the end. I'm going to cut my threads and set my sewing machine aside. Now, if you want to have a nice sharp corner, my advice is to go ahead and snip off your corners. You're cutting close to, but not through your seam allowance. So I'm snipping over here, snipping on this side, over here, and I'm gonna trim my threads. Oh, also, we have a giveaway tonight. So we have 2 giveaways, one on Facebook, one on YouTube. So $25 gift cards to Joanne. If you want to be entered into that giveaway, go ahead and share this video with your friends, especially if you have crafty friends that are sewing things. Share it with them, and then comment below letting me know that you've shared it. You will want to stay tuned the entire video because I will be giving it away at the very end of the video. We'll probably be live for about half an hour. Okay, so we are trimmed. I'm gonna cut this really quick so I can turn it right side out. So I have my little ear saver that's the wrong way, turning it right side out. Just gonna push this through. Are there any comments or questions that I can answer?
Somebody asked, what are the starts for?
What are the what?
The starts.
Starts?
Yeah, maybe that's.
I'm not sure what that means. Okay, if you have questions at any point during this live, just go ahead and put them in the comments. That way I can answer them for you.
Oh, stars.
Oh, what are the stars for? Stars are a new feature on Facebook. It's a way to support your favorite creators, so you can send stars as like a little thank you. So we have this turned right side out. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Phyllis. So many fun things. Okay, where are you guys tuning in from? I see a lot of new people tuning in right now. So let me know where you're coming from. I am ready to press at this point. If you're new to sewing, one of the things that I always advocate is pressing. It makes the biggest difference when you're sewing in having a nice looking quality finished product that doesn't look like it was sewn from home. We want it to look nicely made. One of the things on this that you want to make sure to take a second to do is just roll your corners out. So you can roll them between your fingers like this, or you can even take a pin and just gently pull your corners out. And what that does is it makes it look even better when you go to top stitch, because you'll have a nice sharp corner. Now I'm going to press it.
What kind of iron are you using?
This is my Cricut Easy Press. It's a mini one, so super tiny, but it's nice for little projects. And then this mat also is Cricut. so I'm just going to, I have a few threads hanging loose that I'm going to pull out or trim. And now we're going to top stitch this. So reminder, if you're just tuning in, we are making ear savers. An ear saver is a way to take the elastic off of your ear. So if you're a healthcare provider, if you're a nurse, doctor, anyone that is wearing these for many hours a day and you're having irritation behind your ears, this is just a simple way to take that off of your ear and relieve some of that pressure. Now when I'm top stitching, I top stitch 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the fabric, and we're going to be top stitching all the way around. And what that does, one of the reasons I like to top stitch, is it keeps everything in place after it's been washed. It kind of tells the fabric like, this is where you need to stay. You know, when you throw something in the wash and it comes out all crumpled up, that's what we're avoiding. So just a straight stitch, 1/4 of an inch from the edge. And it's also going to close that opening that we have. So we're accomplishing two things at once. I think it's fun to top stitch in the opposite color or something that stands out. You can top stitch in the same color if you'd like. It's totally up to you. And don't forget the back stitch. Are there any questions that I can answer?
I want to know the size of the fabric.
The size of the fabric is 4 inches by 5 inches. And I'm just using a quilting cotton on this.
What size are the buttons?
The buttons, that's a good question. So when we're doing buttons for this one, I like to make sure that they're smaller, obviously, than what we're putting them on, but also large enough that it can hold the elastic. So I recommend going with a button that's at least about an inch and probably less than 2 inches. So I have a really big one that we could use. I'm gonna go with this one that's about 1 inch. So we are ready. I'm gonna give this a quick press. I like to press things even after I've sewn them just because it locks everything in, makes it look nice. So placing this in front of me, picking out 2 buttons, and you'll need a needle and thread. I like to cut my thread to about 20 inches or so, and I have this doubled over. The reason I doubled it was it makes the thread a little bit stronger since you have 2 layers and you don't have to do quite as many loops. So I'm starting from the back with my needle and I'm holding the button in the front and I'm just going to poke it through that hole and pull until the knot is against the back of my fabric. Poke it through again. And I like to sew from the back because I can make sure that my stitches are nice and neat. So I'm going to turn this around so you can see it. And I like to do this about 6 times. That seems to be a pretty solid number. You don't want it to come undone, so it's better to do a lot and not too little. So back and forth, back and forth. If you want to leave a little gap underneath your button, you can. You would just place this right under your first stitch and then keep going over it. I find it works okay without that. On the back, here's a little trick. I'm going to slide my needle underneath these stitches on the back. And let me move this one out of the way. And I'm going to pull it, creating a little loop, and then I'm going to send my needle back through this loop. And that's just going to create a little knot. And I want to do that again 4 or 5 times. This is just securing everything together. You want to make sure that this isn't going to come undone when someone's wearing it, because it will have a good amount of pressure placed on the buttons. So once you've done it about 4 or 5, 6 times, however many you need to do it, you want to trim away your threads. And at this point, it should be pretty secure. I like to just go the extra mile and, I took the whole top off of that. I like to go a little bit further and put a little fabric glue. It does not want to come undone. I'm struggling, guys. Oh, so many people tuning in, so fun. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Oh, hi Naomi. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little dot of fabric glue on the back of my thread right where my knot is. What that does is it just seals everything together. Set that aside. Okay, so what I would do is repeat the exact same process on the opposite side, and then you're going to end up with your little button ear saver. So that's pretty easy to make. You can crank those out pretty quickly. I would say about 10 to 15 minutes per. Good. Okay. This is knit fabric that I'm using for the headband. Something to keep in mind when you're sewing the headband is that it needs to have stretch. So you can see how this is stretchy. The reason for that is you have some negative ease. It needs to be able to fit around your head. So let's make sure that it is. Can't remember if I trim. Nope, this is still a little big. So it needs to be 18 inches by 6 inches. So I'm going to trim a little bit of this off. If you have a larger head than normal, go ahead and add an inch or two to that 18-inch measurement. So you could go with 19 or 20. If you were making this for a child, maybe you're just making a headband, not an ear saver. You just want to make a headband because this tutorial works like that too. You could go a little bit smaller, maybe 15 or 16 for a kid. Really depends on your head size. So we have this, the greatest amount of stretch should be going this way.
What type of fabric do you use?
This is a double brushed polyester, but you could use any type of knit fabric that has, I recommend about 50% stretch. What that means is if you have a 4-inch piece of fabric, it would be able to stretch to 6 inches. So I am going to fold this in half, right sides together, and I'm going to pin it, throw a few pins in there. And if you have an old stretchy t-shirt, you could probably even get it to work out of an old t-shirt as long as it has some stretch. But this fabric, I found this fabric specifically at Raspberry Creek Fabrics. This is one of their custom ones. They have some cute fabrics. Okay, so I'm all pinned. What we're going to do is sew along this long edge. You want to leave the short edges on the top and the bottom open, so don't sew those just yet. When we're sewing with knit fabric, it's really important that you are using some sort of a stretch stitch. Now, if we used a normal straight stitch, what would happen is when we stretched out that fabric, our seams would just pop because they don't have any give. If we use something like a stretch stitch or even a zigzag stitch, then it's going to have a little bit more give where it's able to stretch without popping. So I'm selecting a zigzag stitch and I'm going to decrease my width just a little bit. And again, sewing with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. When you start sewing, something that people seem to experience with knits is that your sewing machine might get a little bit hungry and it wants to suck everything in. So what I like to do, grab onto both of my threads and pull them away from me as I'm starting. And that usually helps. Now as you're sewing knit, you don't want to pull on your fabric. That will stretch it out. So just loosely let it go through. Just feed it with your left hand. And then remove those pins as they come closer.
Someone asked, can you use a serger?
You could definitely use a serger. Nice thing about knit is it is forgiving. I'm gonna set that aside. Okay, at this point we have sewn all the way down the length of our fabric. And what we want to do is start to turn this right side out, but not all the way. So I'm going to be turning this in on itself. So I'm just pushing the very edge of it down this tube. This is going to help us create a nice clean finish. If you have any questions that I can answer in the comments,
Is that a left-handed sewing machine or is the?
It is a normal sewing machine, but it's probably reversed for you guys that are watching.
Do you use a ballpoint needle with knits?
Yeah, if you have a ballpoint needle, that's recommended to use with knits. The reason a ballpoint needle has more of a rounded point, so instead of piercing your knit fibers, it's actually going to separate them and just go through. That way you don't end up with a run in your fabric.
And do you backstitch on a zigzag?
You can if you want. I usually do.
Repeat that again.
Do you backstitch on a zigzag was what someone asked, and I said you can. I usually backstitch on everything because I would rather be safe than sorry. I don't want my seams coming undone. Okay, so we got to the end. So you'll see this fabric starts to come out. Right sides are facing right sides. What I'm going to do is line up my seam allowances and I'm going to offset them. Oh, also I wanted to tell you guys, I will have a shortened version of this that will be live tomorrow on Facebook and YouTube. So if you can't stay with us all night, I understand. But do stay with us for the giveaway. If you have entered that, go ahead and comment, share this video, let me know that you entered. Okay, so I'm gonna put a few pins in here to keep everything where it needs to be. Something to keep in mind, we're going to sew this, but we're leaving a 1 to 2 inch opening again. Okay, are there any questions I can answer while I sew?
We're good.
Okay. You're going to slide this under your presser foot, your sewing foot, and you're just going to be sewing in the round. You're gonna go nice and slow, making sure that the raw edges are aligned, and then make sure that you leave that opening. Try not to stretch it if you can. It can be a little tricky. If your seams or your fabric, if it gets stretched out, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. You can take your iron with a bunch of steam and just steam it out and it will shrink back up. Stitching and leaving a 1 inch opening so I can turn this right side out, and go ahead and trim your threads. Just as a reminder, this live, you will be able to watch it after we're done being live. So if you want to make this and you're new to sewing, you can pull this video back up at a later point and just go through each tutorial with me and pause it as you need or fast forward, whatever works for you. So we're going to just pull on the inside of the fabric and you're just going to wiggle it out. So keep going back and forth. I probably could have left a bigger opening, but we'll get there. Okay. Here's our headband. It's starting to actually resemble something. Now what you'll notice is on this side we have a hole that we need to take care of. There's a few different ways that you can take care of this. So the first way would be to slip stitch this with a needle and thread. The second way, you could just sew over it, just right along your seam allowance, or you could just use some of your fabric glue and glue it together. It's really up to you what you want to do. I'm going to push my seam allowances all to one side, and I'm just going to do a little bit of glue since that's nice and fast for this video, but feel free to close it however you want. Now it's time for us to put some buttons on here. So lay it out in front of you. Make sure that the middle seam is in the middle, or sorry, your seam is in the middle, and grab your buttons. So I have 2 yellow buttons. These ones measure 1 inch. I'm going to place them a little bit in from the folds. So I don't want them all the way on the fold. I want it about 1/2 inch from the fold on either side. And at this point, if you have a fabric marker, you could mark the placement just so you know exactly where your button goes. I know where it's going to go, so I'm just going to set it aside and thread a needle. Again, I usually put about 20 inches of thread on my needle. I'm going to open this up. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to press it really quick because I want these seams to be nice and flat. Forgot my own advice. Let's see, are there any questions? I'm trying to see. Oh, if you're just tuning in, we are making ear savers. So an ear saver is a way to save your ears if you maybe work in the healthcare, you work in healthcare and you have a mask on with elastic like this. We've had a lot of complaints about people having irritation behind the backs of their ears. So this is a way to take that pressure off of your ear. So we have a headband that we're working on right now, and buttons go right here, so you just loop your mask up over that button.
Somebody asked, what do you mean by offset? That you do you offset?
Oh, when I offset my seam allowances,
Yeah.
maybe? I just made sure that one seam allowance laid towards the left and the other laid towards the right. And that just reduces some of the bulk.
And then do you use fabric glue and sew it?
I would probably do one or the other.
Just repeat that really quick.
Someone asked, do you use fabric glue or do you sew it? And I said you could do one or the other. That would be sufficient. Remember, if you happen to stretch this out a little bit while you're sewing, it's okay. Just hit it with some steam and it will shrink back up. So I'm going to place this in front of me. I have my seam in the middle and it's facing downwards. And then I'm going to place my buttons. So from the back, I'm going to thread through my hole, and I'm going to come back down through the opposite hole. And then I like to sew from the back because I can see exactly where my thread needs to go. So I'm just lining it up with my previous stitches. And make sure that you're not catching any other part of your headband while you're going. You're going to go back and forth about 6 times. I'm going to make sure that it's nice and secure because it does have a good amount of pressure being placed on it from that mask. So it needs to be able to hold up to that.
I would like you to demonstrate each one when you're done.
Oh, okay. I will do a try on at the very end of this video of each one since that has been requested. Once you've gone about 6 times back and forth, what you want to do is you're here on the back. You're going to slide your needle underneath this little pile of threads from going back and forth. Let's see if I can get under there. And pull these threads out of the way. And you're going to pull it, and you'll see I made this little loop right here. I'm going to thread my needle back through that loop, and that just creates a nice tight knot. So you want to do this about 6 times. And just back and forth. I'm only going to do it a few times so that we can move on to the next project. And then you want to just trim away your excess threads. And like I did before, I'm going to put a little dot of fabric glue on the back. And the reason for that is it just gives it a little bit of extra security, keeping those threads together. You could use something like a fray check or any type of fabric glue. So you're going to repeat that same process on the opposite side so that you end up with 2 buttons. And that is how your headband goes together. So that was pretty easy. The last one is our scrub cap. So this is a pattern that we just released last week. We did a live on this. Let me know if you were on the live last week when we sewed this up. That was so fun. I added some buttons to this today. I'm actually sending this to my cousin whose hospital has run out of scrub caps. So I added these little buttons for her. I made them nice and big so that you guys can see what they look like. If you want this free pattern, it is available on sweetredpoppy.com. It's a free download. I have a video tutorial and everything to walk you through it. So what we're gonna do, let me grab another scrub cap and just demonstrate. It's the same exact process of sewing the button, but for the placement, if you're making this for yourself, place your scrub cap on your own head. If you're making it for someone else, then just go ahead and follow kind of a general idea of where it should go. I like to put my buttons about where my ear is, or maybe even a little bit higher or backwards. Really depends on the shape of your face. For this one, I tend to find at least that your dart, so if you sew this yourself, your dart will be about here. I tend to find the button is well positioned just underneath that dart. So I'm gonna sew it right there. So let's see, let me grab some more thread. Are there any questions I can answer?
What sewing machine do you have?
This sewing machine is a Janome, I always forget the model, 4120QDC. And it is available on Amazon. I've been sewing on it for, let's see, maybe 2 years. I love it. It's a great machine. I have another Janome as well. Oh, tip, when you're threading your needle, do not lick your thread. I think a lot of us who sew regularly, we lick our thread before we thread it through the needle. But right now, good idea not to contaminate your thread. So pull that through. Again, I'm doing about 20 inches total, and it's just doubled over. And then I do a double knot at the end. And I'm going to hold my button in place with my left hand and sew with my right hand. I'm coming in from the back. I'm just going to poke it through that first hole, pull until my knot is flush with the fabric, and then go through that second hole. And then I like to sew from the back because you can see exactly where you need to go. So I'm just going to repeat that same process over and over.
Somebody said they use wax for the thread.
Wax. Someone said that they use wax for their thread, and that's a great way to thread your needle, to give it a little something extra so it's not so flimsy. So back and forth about 6 times. I think one of the reasons I do it from the back as well, I sew from the back, is I can keep those stitches nice and pretty. Is anyone else a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to sewing? Okay, I'm about done. So on the back, same step as before. We're going to slide our needle under these threads, and when we do that, we create a little loop. So you'll see I have this little loop of thread, and I'm going to pull my needle back through the thread. That creates a knot, nice and tight. Do that about 4 to 6 times, really depending on how tight you're getting that knot. Once you've done that, clip your excess threads. And again, I'm just using, this is Beacon Fabric Fix. It's a permanent adhesive, and I just put a little dot on my threads to secure everything in place. Okay, so we just went through all of those tutorials pretty quickly. It's time for our giveaway. So I'm gonna give you about a minute to get your comment in so that you can be entered. So go ahead, share this video, then comment below letting me know that you shared it. And I'm gonna see, are there any questions that I can answer?
If it's reversible, wouldn't you want a button on both sides?
If you are planning on using it as a reversible scrub cap, you could definitely put 2 buttons. And what you would do is you just place the buttons, here we use the same one, like this, and then you sew through both at the same time. Totally up to you. This is really, it's a lining, it could be reversible, it's up to you. Any other questions I can answer? Let's see, Naomi says she's a perfectionist as well. I know, I think I got it from my mom too.
People were asking, like, what do you mean wax on the thread? It's
Oh, so there's a little wax circle that you can run your thread through, and what it does is it gives your thread, makes it less flimsy so that you can thread it through the eye of the needle a little bit easier, and you can find that at any craft store. Any other questions?
Good.
Okay, have we answered all the questions? If there's one I missed, go ahead and put it in the comments again, because I'm looking through those right now. If I missed it, I can get back to you after the live video though. Okay, we are going to choose the Facebook winner first. Lindsay is over here on the computer.
Okay.
Lindsay, do we have a Facebook winner?
Facebook winner is Zara Gonzalez.
Zara Gonzalez is our winner on Facebook. If you are here, just go ahead and comment your email so I can send you that $25 Joann gift card. Over on YouTube, we have a winner.
Diana Gibson.
Diana Gibson. Diana, if you're here, you are the winner of the $25 gift card. Go ahead and leave your email address and I will send that over to you. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in tonight. That was so fun to sew with you. If you're looking for any of the patterns, remember, if you're looking for any of the patterns, remember, you can find them over on sweetredpoppy.com. All of my patterns on there are free, so you can download them. You can make this cute little mask. I think I have 4 different variations of masks, so if you have a specific need, you can make them however you want. There's also this free scrub cap, and there is the tutorial as well, the written tutorial. If you happen to do better with photos and written words instead of video, then you can go find that over there as well. We will see you next week, Wednesday night at 8. So thanks so much for tuning in. Can't wait for next week. Oh, let me know in the comments, what do you guys want to see next week? So excited.